With the price of oil and gas continuing to fall, the latest slump takes US oil below $40 a barrel. The big question, what it means for renewable energy. Does it still make financial sense to invest in renewable sources, which can be relatively expensive when traditional sources of energy are comparatively cheap?
Well, the solar energy industry believes it has reached a tipping point with capacity 100 times what it was in the year 2000.
Well, in fact, the industry's trade body reckons solar production from panels is now equivalent to 1% of the world's entire electricity consumption.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's interesting. China, Japan and the United States are the three biggest solar markets. Well, our guest today, there you go, our guest today is the boss of Europe's biggest solar energy company, which is Lightsource Renewable Energy, Vicente Lopez-Ibor Mayor. I got it. I just flows off the tongue, doesn't it, Vicente? Welcome Thank you, sir. Thank you. Welcome to the program. Great to have you with us. Can we just start on, Ben and I were talking before the program, we were looking at these commodity prices, that index that tracks 19, it says 19 different commodities, the prices have fallen 16%, we're seeing oil. I'm wondering, the fall in commodities, does that make your job harder to push renewables, to sell renewables?
Good morning, it's a pleasure being here. This morning, answering your question, it's worthy to invest in renewables now, even according to these circumstances. My answer would be definitely yes. We live in a very complicated world, difficult to make an interpretation. If very authorized voices, a few years ago, they were saying that the cheap oil was over. Even the International Energy Agency, in 2010 and 2011, they wrote warning that this cheap oil was completely over. Look at what is happening now. If we look at a little bit back onwards, we were talking about the renaissance of nuclear, and then Fukushima unfortunately happened. So I think we have to establish long-term strategies in energy. In energy, it's extremely important to take into account these strategies. Much more if we cross this with environmental goals that are extremely important in the society that we live. And solar is the right response and answer for this.
But regardless of the slump in oil prices or traditional energy, non-renewables, the cost of solar or wind is still relatively high. You get the payback over many years. So if you're looking at the cost per unit of electricity generated from solar, it's still relatively more expensive than from fossil fuels. So I'd imagine, as Aaron was saying, your job of selling that is a lot harder.
It's relatively, you use the expression relatively more expensive, of course, but it's relatively more expensive, and at the same time it has been dropped very dramatically during the recent years, and it's going to drop even more and more in the next year. So I think it's worth and is a good decision to go for solar, not only for this very important point that is to achieve these environmental goals, these CO2 emissions, and these general interest goals that I think is extremely important in our society. But because from the competitive point of view, the cost effectiveness of the sector has been proven to be very right in the recent years. So dropping prices, being more competitive, technologically advanced, connection with other technologies as IT, mobile, and this Internet of Things, it takes a lot of sense in this market.
Okay, Vincent, I've got to ask you this while you're here. Now, obviously, you have a vested interest in renewables, solar energy, but this is what I don't understand. You're also an advocate for drilling in the Arctic, drilling oil in the Arctic. That doesn't that kind of clash?
Not exactly. What I said, and I would like to very much reinforce and make it clear as a message. And the first priority in the Arctic is environment. First priority in the Arctic is to preserve and to protect the environment. But at the same time, countries that are there and they have their own resources and reserves, they have the right to use these resources and these reserves, of course, by respecting and protecting the environment. These 5 countries that belong to the Arctic Council and the other 3 that are in this coastline. The question that I would like to raise, if this Arctic that affects to the whole environment that has global implications, it's only a question for these 5 countries. In my opinion, it is not. It is a question that concerns all of us. So it's a question of governance. It's a question of clear governance that touches environment and also touches energy and other things as transport, navigation routes, and geopolitics as a whole.
Okay. Well, we don't have the longest program, do we?
We don't. I wish we could talk more.
You want to thank Vincent?
Yeah, go on, shall I do it? Vincent Lopez-Ibor Mayor. How did I do? Who did it better?
Muchas gracias.
Really nice to see you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks so
Good
much.
luck with it all.
Let's just take